Hello and welcome to a new episode of Race Recap, where we provide you with all the key insights and crucial information from each weekend's feeder series action. My name's Thomas Groves, and this week on Race Recap, it's officially the month of May. The Indy 500 is just a few weeks away, but this week on the feeder series podcast, we're whetting the appetite as Indy's own Junior Ladder was in action in all force on the Indianapolis road course over the weekend, and here to join me to talk more about it is our very own editor of all things stateside. It is Vincent van der Hoek. How you doing, Vincent?
Hello, I'm doing well. Quite tired after 7 races, but hey, here we are.
Now, I want to start with Indy NXT, mainly because it is the highest echelon of the ladder we're talking about today, but also because I think it brought us two very, very interesting races in the sense that we had two first-time winners, Tomek Kucharczyk and Enzo Fittipaldi of Poland and Brazil, respectively. And I think when you look at the form of those guys coming into this weekend, it was kind of inevitable that they were going to get a win at one point. They've been very consistent coming into this doubleheader that we've had over the weekend. But it's great to kind of finally see them come to the fore and really take the fight to the likes of Nikita Johnson, who we've been seeing like kind of dominate the season for the most part. It's great to have two first-time winners in the series, isn't it, Vincent?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also good that there's more international field that's been building over the last couple of seasons. So a really good place for IndyCar's future if their feeder series are becoming more internationally attractive for drivers who might not make it into Formula One.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, of course, IndyCar, very international kind of grid at the moment. It's kind of changed its face quite drastically when you look at how it was, 20, 30 years ago. It's now very much an international grid where you can come and race competitively. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing, where the whole ladder's becoming more attractive. But that's another conversation for another day. What I was super impressed by was, firstly, I think the way Fittipaldi won his race, that was some really classy driving, and he had to hold off a couple other guys kind of for a long, long time towards the end. I think he did a really, really solid shift there. I think as well, I think Tomek, in both races, we kind of saw him come to the fore in that sense. I think that's really, really solid. Nikita Johnson, I'll throw him in there because it wasn't necessarily the most barnstorming weekend from him. He's the championship leader still. He got one podium though, third place in race one, sixth in race two. Do you think that kind of grip he had in the early stages, do you think that's kind of been shaken a bit loose now? Do you think we're going to see this championship fight really open up over the next couple of weekends?
I mean, he was still really up there for the entire weekend, so I think we'll still see a similar pattern for the rest of the season. But yeah, it's good to see that the championship battle is so close. The top four in the IndyNXT championship is now within 16 points. And yeah, Johnson did get a podium in race one, so not too bad, all things considered. But yeah, it's mainly Tomek and Enzo that are catching back up. Max Taylor, who was in second coming into this weekend, he did fine as well. So yeah, really consistent drivers at the top.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing really, again, to be fifth in the championship after a fifth place in race one at a podium in the second race of the weekend. It's kind of showing just how competitive this field is, and it's actually really good if you think about the IndyCar ladder itself, because whoever gets a seat next year from this grid, they're going to deserve it. I think a couple of guys we haven't quite so mentioned, but I think Alessandro Di Tullio, he coming obviously at having won the most recent race. I think he's got a lot of hype around him in the sense that we know he's got these flashes of speed, and we know he can do great things in an Indy NXT car. Had pole for that for that race one, and then kind of lost it. Had to go to the escape, which kind of allowed everything to kind of sort itself out. But I think I'd really like to see him kind of come to the fore. I think great that he got pole position. And as we'll find out later, he wasn't the only South American pole position on the IndyCar kind of ladder this weekend. But I think he showed a bit of spirit to kind of try and fight back as well as he could from that. Just a bit of an unfortunate situation in the first corner there. And you mentioned Max Taylor as well, consistently just showing really well. I think that the other main thing that we kind of haven't mentioned yet that played quite a hand over the results of the weekend was the rain, because you've got all these 3-4 series kind of trying to get all their races done on the same piece of tarmac essentially, and it led to a lot of fun, especially in the USF 2000, the USF Pro 2000 races, didn't it?
So yeah, wet weather did play a big impact. They had to temporarily red flag the race because they don't have live pit stops. Um, but yeah, after the cars were set up for wet weather racing, it was a joy to watch, uh, especially because a lot of these drivers don't have a lot of experience in the wet, at least for the American ladder, um, and especially with like the top six of the championship uh, having four rookies. That's really impressive that all of them managed to score good results.
And yeah, it's like you mentioned, actually. I think it was the USF Pro 2000 race, in which we saw a brilliant bit of kind of, gamesmanship and tactics from Mayor Dale Noreen, a Canadian driver, coming into his first ever race at this level, and he bags himself P3 purely because he was the man who took the opportunist gamble, switched those tires, and it massively, massively paid off because, and we'll come on to Frankie Mossman and Jack Jeffers as well, but they kind of spent so long looking out for each other that they then sort of almost got tripped up a little bit. And that sort of allowed, the likes of Jack Douglas to come through.
Yeah, it was really fascinating to see because the first few laps after the crossover onto dry tires, like the guys who all switched to dries, they were 8 seconds slower. But by the end, like they were already setting faster lap times than the people who stayed out on the wet. So yeah, that especially just made the race a lot more interesting. And yeah, you don't see it that often in junior series where the pit strategy plays such a big part. Uh, and yeah, that was really cool to see. And cool to see, the gamble paying off for some, but also, in the end, Jefferson and Mosman, they finished fifth and seventh in that race. So they still recovered eventually through various cautions and just finding their way through the field. But yeah, absolutely a really fun race.
Yeah, I mean, and then we had it all over again, basically, because it was kind of a different situation, but similar in the sense that rain did play a part, just in a slightly different way. And that was, of course, the one where Jack Jeffers kind of came through and took a really solid victory for himself in the championship. I think Frankie Mossman, he was up there all the way. He definitely had the speed to win a race, but I think it was the strategy that cost him in the first one. What that allowed Jack Douglas to do was take his first win at this level as well. I think when you look at those guys and their weekends, it's really promising, isn't it?
Yeah, especially because Douglas in Arlington in the first weekend wasn't really, up there. So for him to grab a win, that's, a big, you know, positive for him. Hopefully he can build on this from here. Um, and yeah, a lot of unusual drivers were up there suddenly, and they were fighting, So uh, a lot, a lot has been learned, I'm sure. So we'll see how that develops into the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, moving on to USF 2000, we kind of had a very interesting weekend because not only did we had a debutant in Oliver Weldon getting a podium and looking like the real deal, kind of pretty much all the way throughout the weekend, apart from that kind of crash he had in the first race. It was kind of status quo in terms of the fact that Sebastian Gazon is still the championship leader and still looked really, really impressive. But we did have a few new names to kind of mention. I think one of the big ones for me was Brad Marshman.
Yeah, uh, yeah, he did really well. He won race three uh, at the road course. It's his second year in the series now, and yeah, he's been looking really solid. Apart from a tough race one at Indianapolis, he's finished every race in the top five so far, and including that win in race three. So yeah, he's looking really solid. And now in second with Scorpioni obviously moving uh, up the ladder. Yeah, Sebastian Garzon just yeah, really consistent. Like 3 wins already this season. His worst finish was his third place in race three, so that shows you how good he's been. Uh, yeah, not a name we really thought would be this good ahead of the season, but yeah, really good. Uh, Also, when he's in the front, like he really dominates a race. Like yeah, like, and he isn't scared to make some big moves because uh, in race three he fell back a little bit initially, but he came back with some stunning overtakes, including a three wide one into turn 7, which was really cool. So he's really putting it all out there this season.
Yeah, and I think especially when you look at the likes of Modern World, and he came in again, debutant, podium, I think he kind of struggled a little bit, in parts, but if you take that race 1 accident away from kind of the kind of picture, he had a really, really solid debut weekend of the series. I'm very excited to see how he gets on.
Yeah, absolutely. In his first qualifying session, immediately a pole position. Like, that's really special. And the reason it's his debut this weekend here is because he wasn't 15 yet, and you have to be 15 to enter the series. And he only turned 15 after the opening round in St. Petersburg. So it was always the plan for him to be here, but he just needed the proper age. And here he is, and immediately, big impression, like you said. Uh, Race 1 didn't really go his way with like an accident, but again, starting from pole position, third in race 2 and second in race 3, just really good. And what I especially loved in race 3 is that he really put the pressure on Marshman trying to get that win. Uh, didn't get it this time, but yeah, he really had the pace this weekend. And that for his first weekend at this level, yeah, that's really good. He's in it just this weekend. He's already up to 9th in the championship after missing obviously the first round. So yeah, that shows you a lot.
But of course, there's been racing on both sides of the Atlantic this week, as we've just dissected all of the American action in this episode. But also, there was the second round of the British F4 Championship this weekend. And here to tell us more is our very own editor, Gavin Guthrie.
British F4 returned for its second round of the championship, debuting a new 2-part qualifying format for the short and narrow Brands Hatch Indy circuit in the style of F2 and F3 at Monaco. Adam Alazari took pole position ahead of Ethan Lennon and Lewis Worrell. Off the start for race 1, Tommy Harfield launched from the third row into P3, whilst Ethan and Jeff Hall challenged pole sister Adam Alazari for the lead around the outside of turn 1. After a red flag on lap 3, Jeff Hall was able to replicate his move and this time make it stick. Meanwhile, championship leader Dries van Langendonk, who could only manage 8th in qualifying due to an ill-timed red flag, crossed the line in P7, allowing Jeff Hall to snatch the lead of the championship away from the Belgian. With a greasy track, the drivers received 2 formation laps to learn the surface ahead of race 2, and as the lights went out, it was clear that reverse grid pole sitter Jarrett Clark had adapted better than Cashfelder and Haber Al-Sabah in second and third respectively, growing a gap at the front despite another early safety car. Tommy Harfield, continuing his redemption after struggles at Donington Park, climbed from 8th to 4th and finished ahead of all the other championship protagonists. Things got pretty hectic for race 3, with little under half the field, including Van Langendonk and Harfield, peeling into the pit lane at the end of the formation lap to switch back to dry tyres. In the wet running pack at the front, Ethan Lennon attempted to pass Adam Alazari through Paddock Hill and again through Druids before understeering across the damp tarmac and onto the grass on the exit of the second turn. By lap 4, the safety car was back out, allowing the slickshod runners a chance to catch up. However, with the 2 clusters of cars, the safety car accidentally picked up the high-tech of Chiara Batig running in 14th rather than Alazari. This cost those in the alternative strategy, who were hoping for as much clear running as possible, several minutes as those incorrectly held returned to the rear of the train. As the race resumed, those in the slick tyres found significant pace over the wet tyre runners, carving their way through the pack. Harfield, while attempting to clear the JHR of Cameron Nelson, clipped his front wing on Nelson's gearbox, forcing him into the pit lane for a new nose cone. Fortunately for Harfield, the safety car was called before he'd reached the pit lane, allowing him to remain on the lead lap. As the leading slick tyre runner, Van Langendonk could turn his attention to gaining positions. He moved from 10th to 3rd in the 3 laps immediately after the second safety car, before passing championship rival Jeff Hall around the outside of Graham Hill Bend. 2 corners later, the Belgian driver took the lead from Alazari. 2 corners later, the Belgian driver took the lead from Alazari as he was able to plant the power on the exit of the final turn. Behind Van Langendonk, Saudi Arabian F4 champion Kit Bolowski rose from 19th at the pit exit to 2nd for his first podium and top 10 finish in the series. Cole Hewitson was 3rd, whilst Harfield was able to recover from his pit stop to cross the line in 5th. Despite dropping to 2nd in the driver's standings after race 1, Van Langendonk leaves Brands Hatch 23 points ahead of Jeff Hall, with Harfield recovering from his opening round struggles to move up into 3rd.
There was also action from Misano as a whopping 46 cars took to the track for round 1 of the 2026 Italian F4 Championship. Ferrari Academy driver Niccolò Magagnani crossed the line as the winner of race 1, but was handed a post-race penalty of 10 seconds for a starting grid infringement. That meant rookie Alp Aksoy inherited the victory and was joined by Alexander Bondarev and Ari Bansal on the podium. In race 2, pole sitter Luca Samalisto took a lights to flag win ahead of David Cosmo Christopher in P2 and Aksoy in P3. Race 3 saw a bizarre incident when Samalisto's US racing car ground to a halt on the side of the track during safety car conditions, and as the safety car made its way back into the pits to allow for the resumption of racing again, Magnani found himself following Samalisto once more, this time as his car was being brought back to the pits by a recovery vehicle. That didn't seem to face the Italian too much as he held off the competition on a last lap restart to cross the line first and this time keep the win. Cosmo Christopher made it a prima 1-2 on home soil while David Walter rounded out the top three. And in the final race of the weekend, Aksoy again took victory with Bansal in P2 and Walter third once more. All that means that after the season opener, Aksoy leads the Italian F4 standings on 82 points ahead of Magagnani and Cosmo Christopher. Elsewhere, in Kyogo Cup, Riona Tomashita won both races, while Hampus Ferris, Vera Jurland and Robin Hafstrom shared the wins in Formula Nordic. And finally, in Nordic 4, Richard Olsen won race 1 and 3, while in race 2 there was a huge moment for women in motorsport with Millie Ho and Mila Solstrand taking a 1-2 finish.
If you have enjoyed this episode, please don't hesitate to leave a like, review, comment, or follow to stay up to date with all things feeder series. But for now, my name's Thomas Groves. Thank you for listening to Race Recap, brought to you by Feeder Series. Make sure to come back this week for a special interview with the man himself. He's tearing up the Junior Series at the moment. Keen Nakamura Berta, the exclusive interview. Brought to you by Feeder Series. I'll be hosting that one, so make sure to check that out when it drops. But for now, my name's been Thomas Groves. You've been listening to Race Recap, brought to you by Feeder Series. Take care and goodbye.